Alright, I'm going to take a system of 3 equations and show you how to put that in a matrix and solve it by putting the matrix into reduced row echelon form. You should already be familiar with the matrix row operations. If not, please stop this video and go check out my section on row operations and then come back. So first, we are just taking the coefficients. We will not be working with the variables. We'll put a line where the equal sign is to separate the coefficients. And we've started our matrix. Now, to get this in reduced row echelon form, the first thing I'm going to do is take row 2 and subtract row 1, and that's going to give me my new row 2. Now, I always keep track of what I'm doing with little notations like that. It helps if you ever have to go back or have made a mistake to see what you did. So 1 minus 1 is 0. 2 minus 1 is 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Next, I am going to take row 3 and subtract row 1 to give me my new row 3. So 1 minus 1 is 0. 3 minus 1 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. Negative 2 minus 3 is negative 5. Then I am going to take row 1, I'm going to subtract row 2, and that's going to give me my new row 1. So 1 minus 0 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 minus 2 is negative 1, and 3 minus negative 3 is 6. And make sure you watch that when you're minusing a negative. And remember that a negative subtracting a negative is adding. Sorry, that should be negative 3. Okay, next, I am going to take row 3, and I am going to subtract 2 times row 2, and that is going to give me my new row 3. Okay, so let's go back up here. We're doing 2 times row 2. So 2 times 0 is 0. So 0 subtract 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 subtract 2 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 subtract 4 is negative 1. And 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 5 subtract negative 6 is 1. And again, just keeping in mind that a negative subtracting a negative is like adding it. So now I have my new row 3, which is almost exactly where I want it to be. So I'm just going to do something with row 3 right now. I'm going to take row 3 and I'm going to times it by negative 1. And that's going to get row 3 right where I want it. So let's times that by negative 1. 0, 0, 1, negative 1. I now have row 3 in row echelon form. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to work on row 1. And I'm going to take row 1 and I'm going to add it to row 3, and that's going to give me my new row 1. So 1 plus 0 is 1. 0 plus 0 is 0. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. 6 plus negative 1 is 5. Now I have row 1 and row 3 in row echelon form. And all I have left to do is get rid of that 2 and get this row 2 into row echelon form. And the way I'm going to do that is by taking row 2 and subtracting 2 times row 3. And that is going to give me my new row 2. Now sometimes you'll try something and it doesn't work, but don't be afraid to try because we've kept track of our steps. You can always go back. Okay, so 2 times 3, or 2 times 0 is 0, so that stays the same. 2 times 0 is 0, 1 minus 0 is 1. 2 times 2 is 2, 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. 1 minus negative 2, and I'm sorry, this should be a negative 3. 3 minus negative 2 is negative 1. And now I have my matrix in reduced row echelon form. And all we need to do now is plug the numbers back in. So we have x equals 5, y equals negative 1, and z equals negative 1. You can take these numbers, put those back into your system of equations, and verify that they work. And I'll let you do that math on your own if you'd like to.